Welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm your host, Kevin. With me is my co-host, Aaron. How you doing,
Aaron D.
The one and only. For those of you joining us for the first time, each week on the B Movie Club, we do certain forgotten classics, guilty pleasures of the past.
And sometimes just really crappy movies.
Oftentimes, just really crappy movies. You can go to our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Give us the big thumbs up. You also go to our page on YouTube, Kevin D, and click the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And don't forget to go on Twitter. My new Twitter handle is at the B Movie Club.
Oh, no longer your social security number, date of birth, and
it's a whole new dawn for the B Movie Club. Let me tell you. And in that, I hope you're appreciating our new intros and outros to the show. I'd like to thank JRS Video and Audio Remastering, live from West Virginia.
Wow.
Yes, for their creation of my intro and outro. So thank you very much.
Is outro a word?
It is now. It's coming into, I guess you'd say, conclusion? I don't know. Epilogue? Something. Intro? I don't know. The thing that comes on at the end of the show.
Yes, sir.
Let's just call it that show.
Now, I think we should give a disclaimer because there's going to be a little background noise. It's my parents' or my mother's 75th birthday, so you may hear the shrieking of my sisters from time to time. So it's just all part of the fun.
Not just may, you will hear the shrieking. In fact, the sounds of the shriek at this moment adds to the horror quality of this episode, let me tell you.
And it is terrifying.
This week, we are doing Fright Night. It's an all-star cast with Roddy McDowell, William Ragsdale, Chris Sarandon, Amanda Bears. The list goes on and on. You know them, don't you?
And when you mean all-star cast, you mean all, I think we're looking at C-level, maybe?
Yeah, people you might recognize.
People you might recognize from some somewhat successful shows, some not-so-successful TV shows.
Hey, I think I've seen that person somewhere before, but I can't quite place it. Did I go to high school with them?
That's
right. The quality we're looking for here.
Did I see them in porn? I'm not sure.
It's entirely possible with this crowd, let me tell you. So Fright Night, what is the story of Fright Night, Aaron?
Oh, it's really deep and complex. Teenagers who are clearly well in their 20s notice that a strange goings-on at the empty house next door, the strangely haunted house.
A guy just moved in.
And sure enough, all of a sudden, coffins are being brought to the basement. So that, raised a red flag.
That's a big red flag.
So, of course, next thing you know, by God, those vampires are moving into town.
Yeah, bodies are showing up with their heads cut off. The police are baffled. But every time our hero, Charlie Brewster, a teenager who lives next door, looks out the window, he sees the creepy Jerry Dandridge bringing some hooker into the house in front of the open window, and there's some disrobing going on. Always an open window.
Always an open window.
Yes.
It does seem they were a little sloppy. We don't want people to know that we're vampires, but we just keep pitching the bodies, in the dumpster behind the school, and we must make sure we murder them with all the lights on and all the windows open.
Windows open.
That's important.
So he looks through the window, he sees the guy with the girl, and then sees the fangs and the long, crazy fingernails. So that kind of gives him the signal. And of course, no one believes him. He's going from door to door. Help, help, there's a vampire. No one believes him. His friends don't believe him. The cops don't believe him. It's very sad. However, by bringing the cops to the guy's house, now they're aware that he's aware. They know what he knows.
Because it wasn't that they were aware when they looked out the window as they were about ready to eat the girl and see him looking back. That wasn't enough. He pulled the blinds
at that point.
He pulled the blinds, but that wasn't a real tipper offer that people are aware of your monkey business.
Yeah. So, okay, so now the vampire, first of all, this is a funny scene that I find, is that this guy...
I'm sorry, was there a funny scene in this film?
There's many funny scenes, let me tell you. There's a great scene where this guy, Charlie, who watches this show, Fright Night, kind of a movie macabre.
Yes.
And what knows, it's vampire movies every night. He has to go talk to his buddy, Evil Ed. What do I do if there's a vampire next door?
That's right, because even though I watch horror movies every night, clearly I'm confused about what you do with a vampire.
Right. I mean, and he tells very cursory stuff that any person on the street would know. Well, garlic works. stake through the heart. Maybe you've heard some of these before. A cross.
Yeah, there's this strange kind of instrument. It looks like this.
Do this every now and again.
Perhaps you can find that in gold and wear it as a necklace. It's called a crucifix.
Maybe. I mean, he didn't come out, well, here's this ancient book on ancient vampire lore. I'm going to tell you some deep
He was like, duh, and now get the hell out.
So he gets his house ready. The vampire comes to him and he makes him this offer. He says, you know what, Charlie? I'm in a good mood. Leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. He doesn't take that offer.
I would say, wouldn't you at least just say, okay, even if your intention was to lie to the vampire,
Right.
wouldn't you just say, okay.
Give me a minute to at least think about it.
Aye.
He says you can take that offer and shove it. So it's very sad.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So now he goes to talk to the star of that hit show Fright Night, famed vampire hunter Peter Vincent, who is just an actor, of course, just a guy hosting a show. He's not really a vampire hunter. This is where the lines are.
But we have to say who he is. He is Cornelius from Planet of the Apes.
Correct. Roddy McDowell. You know him, don't you?
That's right. And Roddy McDowell. English, gay, who can tell?
Or both.
Maybe both.
I've checked box C in that question.
Exactly.
So
all of the above.
All of the above. So, of course, Roddy McDowell, who's just been fired from the show, he's very sad, tells him to take a hike. So his friends are concerned about him, so they go to Roddy McDowell, excuse me, Peter Vincent, and have him say, you know, we'll give you $500 if you go to this guy's house with Charlie and perform a vampire test to prove that he's not really a vampire.
That way, my boyfriend won't go murder the next door neighbors because he's cuckoo.
Right, exactly. Instead of calling, I don't know, a sanitarium or something, calling the cops on
Talking to his mother, perhaps suggest some kind of counseling.
I know. The mother is left blissfully ignorant through this entire thing.
That's right. She's a single mother, so she's obviously very loose and probably on some kind of mother's little helper. Value.
She works nights, wink, wink, if you know what that means.
Exactly.
So he agrees to go, and they use fake holy water because Jerry the vampire is a born-again Christian.
Yeah, devoutly religious man,
Yes.
and it would be,
Yeah,
sacrilegious
he'd be
otherwise.
So they do the test. He drinks the fake holy water. Oh, clearly I'm not a vampire. There you go. So they're like, okay, let's go. Roddy McDowell pulls out his compact or something to check his hair at that moment.
See if the eyeliner is still nice.
And at that moment, he looks over and accidentally sees Jerry does not cast a reflection in his mirror. So it's so he drops the mirror, leaves half of it on the floor, and ushers the kids out. And that's when Jerry and his faithful sidekick Billy realize, oh, okay, so they're on to us.
Yes.
It's a sad, sad story. So there you go. I don't want to spoil everything. I don't want to give away the thrilling conclusion to Fright Night. But I enjoyed it a great deal. I felt it was a classic. Aaron may have slightly different opinions on it. What are your thoughts on Fright Night?
I think Fright Night, and we're talking about the original 1986, should be viewed like a National Geographic special on the 80s. So, if you look at it that way, it has some interesting anthropological scenes. For instance, you gotta have your collar up. And
Pop's collar.
And Susan Sarandon's ex-husband rocks his 80s style.
Yep.
Because it was very important in the 80s. You should never bend the collar. You always had to keep it straight because you don't want that weird crease.
Don't want it.
So he was rocking the collar, although I didn't see a lot of Ray-Bans. But I did see many memorable fashions from my college days. Some fabulous with the shoulder pads.
Gotta have the shoulder
Some
pads.
horribly sad with the muscle pants tucked into your high-top tennis shoes.
I especially liked Jerry's fashionable flash dance style sweater.
Oh, yes.
Sweater that he wears to the club.
And it's like open off the collar.
Yes. Very nice. Bill Cosby
Sweater's
would be
big
proud.
in the 80s, yeah. A Cosby sweater.
It's lovely. Good times had by all. The cast, as you look at it, like we said, Chris Sarandon.
Chris Sarandon, probably the most powerful star in the entire film. We have Marcy from Married with Children as the virginal teenager, playing what, a 16-year-old, even though clearly she's about 29.
She's a 16-year-old girlfriend of Charlie,
who is Herman from Herman's Head. So if you don't know what that is, you have no idea who this is.
Sure.
You have no idea. I mean, his acting is so terrible.
Please.
It was like stage acting. It was dinner theater acting, where you must project your voice at all times.
How dare you?
And obviously they brought him in as a fake Cusack. They couldn't afford John Cusack because, you know, he was fairly attractive and very popular at the time. So they're like, hey, this guy has dark hair. He's white. Let's give him a shot. What the heck?
At one point, Charlie Sheen was reading for the role of Charlie, and they didn't like him because they thought he was too heroic, too sheeny, if you will.
Too sheeny, yeah.
This is before he was all about winning.
Tiger's blood.
Yeah. So way before that. So they cast William Ragsdale in that role, as we said, Herman, because they thought he was more boy next door, kind of weak and simpering, I guess.
Horrible.
What they're going for. The guy who plays Evil Ed, which is Charlie's buddy, who's not really his buddy. They seem to have a contentious relationship.
Exactly. Obviously, he is so miserable and being picked on that he agrees to become a vampire because the vampire accepts. I mean, this guy's literally a step away from the trench coat. You know what I'm saying, people?
Need I say more?
Need I say more?
So he's in this. That actor, his name is Stephen Jeffries, who you might remember him from Fraternity Vacation. Do you remember that one? That was actually filmed in Palm Springs, where we're from. So
very nice.
Good times. After this movie, he went on to star in the surprise hit 976 Evil. You know it, don't you? No, we don't. He actually chose that movie instead of starring in the sequel to Fright Night, appropriately named Fright Night 2. Critics say this was a major misstep in his career because then a few years after that he was forced to do, this is not a joke, gay porn.
And this shocks me because usually in gay porn you have a higher production value, and in gay porn the men are usually fairly attractive. I don't know, maybe he was like in some kind of a dungeon scene. It really surprises me that he had such a long career in gay porn.
I don't even think we need to explore this topic any further, frankly.
I don't know about that.
Exactly. Roddy McDowall playing Peter Vincent. The name comes from the famous vampire and horror film Peter Cushing and Vincent Price.
Oh, fascinating.
And they actually wanted to have Vincent Price play the role, but at this point Vincent Price was too old and infirmed, and he was kind of moving away from acting. So.
And let's discuss production values. Roddy McDowall. Clearly, they went to Party City and bought the white can of spray paint and sprayed that in his hair. I'm not sure if just baby powder would have been as effective. It was terrible.
Roddy McDowall is 65 years old in this movie.
He doesn't have his own gray hair? Exactly. What's going on with that?
What the heck is going on here? This movie was directed by a guy named Todd Holland, who went on to direct such movies and write such movies as Cloak and Dagger, if you remember that one.
No.
And Child's Play with Chucky.
Oh, yeah,
And all these movies have that same through line of the central youngish character witnesses something quasi-supernatural or unbelievable, and no one believes him.
And you can make a career out of that?
That's all you need to do.
We're in the wrong job.
It's a sad, sad story. This is actually the first vampire movie that cost more than $1 million to produce. Where did the money go?
Chris Sarandon's wardrobe, clearly.
It must have been, because it was not the production values, as we said.
And I must talk about Chris Sarandon, because he was kind of foxy, and he was like in everything back in the day. And I have to tell you, I was shocked. I said, Kevin, I wonder what he's doing now. He looks terrible. And I realized, he's my father's age.
Yeah.
I don't remember my father looking like that in 1985.
Dad wore a lot of sweaters back in the day.
There were a lot of sweaters, but I don't remember him looking like Chris Sarandon in 1985.
That's probably a good thing.
All right.
It's a sad, sad story. Chris Sarandon, you also remember him. He was Prince Humperdinck from...
Yes, that was... I kept thinking, God, I know him from somewhere else. He was Prince Humperdinck.
It's not, like I said, it's an all-star cast. But nothing is more jarring than seeing Charlie's girlfriend is Marcy from Married with Children.
I think this is the film that turned her into a lesbian. This may have been it was too much for her.
It's too much for me as
Trying
well.
to make sweet, sweet love to Crazy Herman from Herman's Head.
Good Lord. Again, I highly enjoy it. It was actually the surprise hit the year that it came out. It was the #1 horror movie of that summer, and actually the #2 horror movie of that year, right behind Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
And I find that shocking. All I can say is thank God in 1985, 86, I was away at college and we didn't have first-run movie theaters.
Well, the shocking thing was the studio had basically made this movie and pushed it to the side. They were really pushing, get this, Perfect, with John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis. They were putting all their money into that aerobicizing movie instead of this classic Fright Night. They actually...
I'm not sure if they weren't wrong. Maybe the studio had a good point back then.
They made, like I said, they made Fright Night 2 a couple years later. Evil Ed is not in this. Marcy is not in this anymore. Chris Sarandon was killed. Oh, spoiler alert! Was killed in the first movie.
Really? The vampire died at the end? Shocking.
They didn't. Yeah, they couldn't reach compromise in any other way, sadly. But they also remade this movie a couple years ago, where Colin Farrell plays the Jerry Dandridge character, the vampire.
And I did not see that. Was it better?
It wasn't better, but I enjoyed it.
Okay, it wasn't better. Okay.
Okay, let me stop you right
I'm concerned.
And Peter Vincent was played by Scottish actor David Tennant, who was more famously played the 10th Doctor Who.
Okay, once again, I got to go back to my theory that there's some actors, Liam Neeson, who obviously have gambling debts or a drug addiction that we are unaware of, because that's why they keep making these kind of movies. So we have David Tennant and Colin Farrell.
You can't beat that.
What the heck? What is wrong with these actors that they are so desperate for money?
They got to pay the rent too.
Blackmail, gambling, prostitution, undisclosed heroin addiction. Let's check their toenails. I don't know.
I enjoyed the remake. I thought it was good. You may have felt it was different. Now, Peter Vincent in that movie is not the host of a horror, late night horror show. He was a Chris Angel type, stage magician with like a horror theme. So it was kind of an interesting take on it.
Chris Angel.
What are you going to do? There you have it. It currently has 94% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
And can you tell me what that even means? I don't know.
Okay, for those of you guys who are unaware.
If it's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, that means it's good?
That means it's good.
Oh, come on.
Basically, Rotten Tomatoes, there's a quick lesson in this. Probably I should have done this a long time ago, considering we're 150 episodes in. Rotten Tomatoes...
Well, we don't want to rush these things.
I know. What they do is they take critic scores from across the nation, past and present, top critics, anybody who's ever reviewed the movie, and they write down basically if it's a positive or if it's a negative. And then they basically come up with a percentage of how many of the total are positive scores. So 94% of the people who reviewed the original Fright Night gave it a positive score.
Now, I was alive and aware in the 80s, and there were movies that were actually good. So I am truly confused. What did Roger Ebert say about this? Did you look that up?
I didn't look
I didn't do it.
He gave it 2
I did about 2 minutes of research for this film.
She'd never seen this.
I have never seen this. My college, we in the dorms, we didn't have cable, so we had 2 channels on TV, and the movie theaters at my college only showed foreign films or like the 10 Commandments.
That's a shocking travesty.
Shocking travesty, but at the same time, it was $2 to go to the movies. So I'm kind of out of the loop for TV and movies in the mid-'80s, but I know there were quality films back then. Because this film is neither scary nor amusing. Like I said, National Geographic, just to see what the fashion was.
You've lost your damn mind.
Uh-huh.
So next week we're going to be moving away from the horror genre. In my never-ending effort to go through the entire PJ Souls catalog,
did you already do Rock and Roll High School?
That's what we're doing next week.
I love Rock and Roll High
School. Starring PJ Souls as Riff Randall, and of course the undead characters known as the Ramones. They're also in this, looking freaky as ever.
She was in love with Joey Ramone.
Oh God, which is enough.
The Howard Stern of the 70s.
He's the scariest looking guy, scarier than any vampire in Fright.
More terrifying than Steven Tyler.
My goodness, was he? Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's what we're going to be doing next week. You can reach me on our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. You can go ahead and go to our page on YouTube. And, of course, you can tweet me on Twitter at The B Movie Club.
Wait a minute, I forgot to mention I'm wearing pink lipstick. It is my homage to the 80s.
Very
Back
80s.
to you,
She looks just like Marcy from Married with Children.
No, I want to be PJ Souls now.
Oh, my bad, PJ.
I could have worn my ponytails.
Go ahead and subscribe and like those pages, and don't forget to spread the word. Spread the word to all your homies, friends, enemies, strangers on the street. We could use the help.
There we
Catch my
go.
drift. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. Mr. Vincent, I've seen all your movies, and I find them very amusing. So there you have it. Thank you for joining us. Next week, Rock and Roll High School. I'd like to thank Aaron once again.
Wait, I want to sing Rock and Roll High School. Rock, 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 rock and roll high school.
So there you go. Fine quality singing there. Thank you. Spoken word.
That's how I do it.
That's how she do. So next week, Rock and Roll High School. Thank you for joining us, and be well.